Out of space with him, go. Out of space with him, go. I be up in the way. 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 Running on my face. Gucci guilty on my face. I be up in the way. 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 Can I talk to you? I've been working hard. I've been up all night. I just been so high. I feel nothing off the sands. Withdrawals killing me. I need something to sleep. Need you on top of me. I need to get high. Dreams designer all night. Chanel should be hot in my dreams. Wearing my clear on my sleeve. I'm not who you need me to be.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Artist Exchange.
The Artist Exchange. The Artist Exchange. The Artist Exchange.
The Artist Exchange.
Artist Exchange Live.
The Artist Exchange. The Artist Exchange.
The Artist Exchange.
Starts now.
Hey, what's up, and welcome to the Artist Exchange radio show here live only on BeExposedRadio.com. I'm your host, Nate Couser, and which camera is it? So today, well, for the month of November, we're going to be dealing with some self-care issues, gratitude, self-care. There's a lot of workshops that I've been taking over the last couple months in preparation, not just for this, but for some work that I'm doing. If you don't know, I am a school teacher and I work with young babies. This year I have preschoolers, and it's been tough because I'm used to working with older children. So this year I'm in a preschool class, and it's a lot different. It's a lot more stressful. And when you're in a classroom full of students by yourself, it is not you have to come prepared. You have to have all your lesson plans and agendas and objectives and goals and processes all in a line, and you need to have done that before the school year started, and you got to just continuously lay out the plan and make sure everything is in order. But sometimes things don't go the way it's planned, and that's in any workplace environment. I'll just add a couple people here. And as a school teacher, I'm not, this is not directed just towards school teachers, but just people in general. For this month, as we get into the winter month, this is normally the time when seasonal depression starts, and a lot of the winter blues and so on and so forth. And then if you've lost family members, this is normally the time of the year where it gets a little bit harder, because these are the holidays where we get together and it's about family and thankfulness and all that. And it's normally a little bit sad. And I've gone through that myself. And I have some friends that who have really and are really struggling with it. This past year, we lost a really good woman, Miss Diane Kane, and it made me think of how one of my really good friends, her daughter, is going to go through this holiday, and she's a big part of Thanksgiving. It's normally at her house, and this year is probably going to be a lot different for everybody, and I'm hoping that the Kane family makes a way to keep it together and keep the tradition going. But because this time of year could be hard, whether you lost somebody, whether it's just the onset of cold and you feel more that hibernation energy, we sometimes go through those winter blues, and they could be hard. For me, the time that I had started college when I was 21, so from I'll say 21 to maybe 25, every August, every January, I went through this this thing where I didn't want to leave out the house, and I didn't want to, like literally, I would not leave out the house for that month. Luckily, things were accessible and you could like order stuff, and I really did not want to leave out the house, and it was kind of the beginnings of when you could start ordering like groceries, and it was hard on my relationships, on my family, on my friends. Someone I was in a really good relationship with, it was really hard to deal with that. So part of what I've started to do specifically as an artist and as a teacher, and as somebody who has worked for himself for a number of years now, I make sure my self-care is priority. And sometimes it doesn't always go like health. When we think of self-care, we think of going to get a manicure or pedicure or massage, or taking a vacation, or taking a Monday to ourselves. But sometimes it has to be bigger than that. You have to make sure your health is good. You got that toothache that you just keep letting go, and then all of a sudden the tooth falls out or whatever, and you got to go get it replaced, and you got to really go to the hospital for things that you've been putting off. That's all in self-care. And self-care has to come before anything else in your life, and it has to be the number one priority, because I can't, if my cup is empty, it's nothing else that I could give you. And it's something that I really have worked on for a number of years now. Hey, cousin, I see you on. It's something that I've really worked hard at recently, because years and years have passed and I didn't really give a lot of focus to my personal self-care. I put a lot and I poured a lot out to the people that I was surrounded by, and I didn't really give a lot of attention to myself. And this past year, I've had to cut a lot of people off. And not, when I say cut, I'll say turn off a lot of my relationships, or put them on pause. And it's been family and friends and work relationships alike. And it's hard to do that when you're so used to just going and going and going and making things work. But when you can't physically move, mentally or physically, or financially or spiritually, when you're stuck in a space, you starting from ground zero, from scrap. And today I'm going to go over a couple things. I actually had a professional development today for work. School was closed, but we still was in there making it work. And I learned some valuable lessons today, but it's things that I've been learning in a couple different workshops that I've been taking that I have to apply to my life. Like, you can't get on. And anybody who's in their 30s, and people joke us because we think we're getting old, but it's something that happens. You 29 today, and then you wake up and you 31, 34, 35, and you fall, and you just don't get up the same way you could when you was 19 or 20 something. It just don't happen. Like, you still get up, you still can bounce back, but that knee gonna be swollen for a couple days, or that foot gonna be on ice a couple more hours than what it would have been when you was 20 something. And I'm just learning how to just take care of myself in a different way than what I have, and that's spiritually, physically, mentally, and financially. You have to be able to apply self-care to your life, and it starts with waking up in the morning, drinking water. If you have to get up with an alarm clock, that's normally a problem. Not getting enough sleep, eating a balanced breakfast, and it could be something small and light, and then your meal's supposed to get heavier for lunch and then go down again for dinner. But just figuring things out. And on the last show, we talked to one of my friends on the phone, and we got through some things, and we talked through some things with her in terms of her being a chef, and we shared a couple different health scares, and we were talking about how I was talking to her about how she got through some things, and we were going through like a 30-day cleanse. Now, I was going through a fast, and I lasted a couple days, and I was about to punch somebody this weekend, so I had to eat something. But even in me eating something, I had to be mindful of what I was eating and how much of it I was eating and when I was eating it, so I can make sure that I'm good and I'm not too far in one area and it could give me a flare up for something that I'm going through. But today we're going to go through this self-care questionnaire that I have, so you can see some of the things that you're already doing, what's working, what's not working. We're going to go through some burnout warning signs, and then we're going to talk about some signs of burnout and compassion fatigue. And often when you work in a service industry, whether like I'm an artist, so a lot of what I do is to the public, and then I work with students, so I'm giving my energy to these young people every day. And what are the things that can make us fatigue or burn us out easily? So we're gonna go through that today, and some steps to getting well, keys to successful meditation, some things that I have really applied to my life and I've kind of compiled in these things, because one of the things that I want to start doing next year is some more workshops and facilitating these workshops. And I did a couple of them this year, and I took a lot of them this year myself, and I wanted to compile that into a couple different workshops that I can then go out and help the community with, because these are things that I found myself, really fatigued, ending up in the hospital this year. And I'm somebody, I've only ever been to the emergency room, and it's never been a broken bone or anything, but me being in the hospital for 3 days, scared me, and it scared me in a different way, where it forced me to really focus on me and not put too much energy on people and places and things that don't matter to my life and my mission and my purpose and my goals. So we're going to go over a couple of those things as the show go on, and hopefully my guests will come join us. But if she doesn't, oh well. And then we're going to go over some this gratitude challenge that I'm doing. So we're on day number 4 now. So I'll be posting that after the show, and they don't always come out at the same time. I'm gonna work on trying to get them out, but scheduling is messy right now, and I'm trying to get everything in order for the winter and making sure I'm in line with the things that I have to do and getting things done. But we're doing this 30-day gratitude challenge, and we're on day number 4. If you go to our Instagram page or the Artist Exchange Radio Show page, hey cousin, feeling you. I've learned if something happens to you, they step over you and keep it moving. So sad. And that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about as artists, as just workers in general, especially when you're working for somebody else. You are disposable. As a teacher, if something happens to me, God forbid, today or tomorrow, and it's over for me, they're going to find another person to teach that class. So if I'm not good, I got to get good, so I can be my best self for me. Before I think about a lesson plan, before I think about getting to work in the morning, before I think about even doing the show, if I'm not 100%, I ain't doing it. And that I don't want to be difficult to anybody. I don't want to be a mess to anybody, but I got to get good with myself. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. Please stay tuned. Stay locked in. If you're watching this show, please share it out with your friends. Please help me out. We need your help in just getting it out there. So add your friends. If you know any teachers, if you know any entrepreneurs, please add them. Go to the bottom where it says share. Click them, tag them in it. We'll be right back here on the Artist Exchange Radio Show, only on BeExposedRadio.com.
Be Exposed Radio.
Well, if you made them, take care of them.
Yeah, that's
Period.
the real.
You right.
That's the real deal.
It's period.
Right.
And all that old money shouldn't go toward this, money should go to. If the child is with one of the parents 24/7, 7 days a week, you don't even come get your child every day. You come get your child once a month maybe, or once every 3 months.
Right.
You cannot dictate where that money goes, especially if the child ain't calling you about nothing. Now, if the child calling you every week, then you can question about where the child support is going. But if every time you pick up the child, they look nice, they ain't complaining about nothing, why are you worrying about where the money go at?
It is what it is. Radio show.
You're like an internal bleeder. Can't see your pain, but it can silently kill ya. So deeply wounded, but don't say a thing. Too afraid of what the people may say or think. So you just sit there and you suffer in silence. Your pride won't let you just uncover your secret. Don't wanna look weak in your image, it ain't worth losing. So you just act as if it's nothing happening. God sees you, and God hears you. Yes, God loves you. You're like an internal bleeder. Can't see your pain, but it can silently kill ya. Suicidal, depressed, but you won't say a thing. Too afraid of what.
Now listen to BeExposedRadio.com. Check out this fire flashback.
We need to relearn what it is to be these bosses and how we conduct ourselves as business-minded individuals and just people in general. I let my gut, and if I call it gut or God or whatever, I'm led by that energy. I know where it comes from. I know where it's, taking me, and you have to figure out what is important to you, and don't play this game. It's a game that we've learned to play, this chess game, and life is not a chess game. Life is real, bones, flesh, blood, decisions.
Make sure you check out the Artist Exchange Show every Monday and Friday at 2 p.m. only on BeExposedRadio.com.
White keys only have this bitch jumping.
Okay. If I sit around, hold up. Look. If I sit around, hold up. Yeah. Rebel rough. Let's do it.
If I sit around, I'ma smoke some more. Wasn't even thinking about smoke before, but I'm in my head, I'm in the bed. Don't know who I am, like I'm wearing a mask. Working mode, tell them where the cash. If you wear the cash, tell them where the cash. If you playing for you, gon' run it back. Don't make promises, but I promise that. Don't promise me.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Hey, what's up, and welcome to the Artist Exchange Radio Show here live only on BeExposedRadio.com. First of all, before we get into today's topic, which is self-care, so this month is all dedicated to self-care, and we're going to do a couple shows where we incorporate gratitude and getting that all in line. But first of all, I have to shout out first my cast of Pearly, I'll be performing this show in February. It opens up February the 7th. We'll have more information. I'm going to try to do, say, like an artist exchange night where I invite everybody who are from the artist exchange to come on out and support the show. But I'll be playing in this musical. I haven't done a musical in a long time, but this musical opens up at the Arena Players. And Arena Players, if you don't know, the oldest continuously operating black theater company in the United States, no, the East Coast, I'm sorry. And so I'll be in this show, directed by Troy Burton, music director Tevin Brown, choreographer Miss Tracy Jiggets. So definitely come on out and join us February the 7th for the month of February, Black History Month. You can definitely come on out and be a part. In addition to that, and like I said, building that schedule and trying to do things, and if you know me as an actor, learning lines is very difficult, so please pray for me. And this musical will be, I'm trying to do 5 different things at one time. But yeah, so learning lines is very difficult. So this is a musical, so that requires singing, dancing, and some lines. And yeah, pray for me. In addition to that, I'm also directing again, The Soul Man's Soul. This is the play that got me to Be Exposed Radio. I actually interviewed on one of the shows like almost 6 years ago, and I interviewed on the show, and I really liked the station, and the young lady who was in the show, who was also one of the co-hosts of the show I interviewed on, talked me into meeting with the owner of the station, and I really have appreciated this journey that I've been on. So I'll be directing this again. We last did this at the Kennedy Center. So we're redirecting it. It's a somewhat new script, or I'll say an updated script. And we'll be directing it soon. Right now we're in doing table reads and doing some workshops of it. And we'll be posting some audition notices soon. So if you are a singer, if you think you sound like Sam Cooke and we can, finagle the look, definitely hit me up. We're looking for some young ladies, some gentlemen, some singers, somebody who can really be professional. You don't necessarily need any stage experience, but if you do have a good singing voice, if you follow directions, if you take directions, I'm looking for you. And this was written by Miss Jocelyn Walls and my good friend Miss Shar, my big sister Shar, will be helping to co-produce this with Miss Jocelyn Walls, and I'll be directing this piece. So this piece will not go up until around Mother's Day, and Pearly will go up in February. So I'm in Pearly and I'm directing The Soul Man's Soul. So definitely look out for all the information you'll be seeing. We'll be doing some auditions lately. And if you want to sponsor this play, so on and so forth, definitely I'll be posting that information up soon. So again, this month is dedicated to self-care. And in addition to that, on the Artist Exchange social media site, we are doing a 30-day gratitude challenge, and that's a part of the self-care that I'm taking. That's the connection between the two, and part of my self-care is really being thankful and finding those moments to have a gratefulness for the things that I have and who I am and the people around me, and saying thank you. I think that's a lost art. People just expect people have this sense of obligation that they give to people as a responsibility to give us something, and that's not true. So we have to learn how to say thank you to the people who do even the most, in our eyes, the most minute things, because we don't know how much that's costing that person to even do that minute thing. So a part of where I'm at right now is just being really grateful. Not that I've never been grateful, but I've been in some situations with people where I didn't necessarily see gratitude being given to me. So I definitely know what that feels like. And I am in a space where I just want to be more thankful and just be that and just live in that moment and fill my cup with that gratitude and then pour that out to the people who are constantly supporting me in any way, shape, fashion, or form. So thank you to the people who continue. First of all, thank you to the people that continue to watch this show and support the show and are constantly giving me just kudos and love and support. People that watch the show, people that share the show, people that take the time to come out on the show before the 19th. So, cousin, I'm not at that school anymore. I'm actually at Arundel Elementary now. So I'm at a new school, new principal, new students. Just a new, fresh start for me this year. So I'll message you after also, so we can link up and make some time. But I think we're about to go to a commercial break. Yeah, so we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back, and we're going to jump right into this conversation on self-care. And I'll ask you the question, what are you doing? What are some things that you do to maintain your self-care? And I may make a couple calls to a couple people who I know are in that self-care industry. And if you are in the self-care industry, if you do anything that aids to somebody having self-care, whether you're a massage therapist or you do manicure pedicures, or you actually are a therapist or a life coach, whatever it may be, if you feel as though you're in the self-care industry, I want you to reach out to me, the Artist Exchange Radio Show at gmail.com, and send me your information, because we are planning an expo for self-care and I really want you to be a part of it. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back here on the Artist Exchange Radio Show, only on BigExposedRadio.com. Peace out. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Take a minute and listen to this flashback of the Black by Demand radio show.
Control. They said she wouldn't so they didn't know if she had a weapon. So it's just a mess. So yeah, you do have to have these discussions with your children.
You do. And you have to make them aware of that there is an enemy out there. Every time the police pull you over, or every time you have an interaction with the police as a black person, you are at risk of being in front of your enemy. Hopefully, it's not a police officer that wants to demonstrate that he's your enemy, but we all see it's a high probability of that being the case. So if we're not talking to our children do not have the coping mechanisms to deal with these type of intense situations. What they're going to do is what most of us do as black people, me and anyone else, which is become emotional. And that is the trigger point for the police. They know that black people are emotional people. So when they arrive on the scene, they are purposely trying to say and do things to you to get your emotions up, right? And then once they get your emotions up, then it's like, oh, that's what we needed. Now we're going to kick your ass. You know what I'm saying? Gotcha. You know, so I'm saying we need to have these discussions with our children, you know, and make them understand in this day and age, and it's every day and age really, but we'll just say this day and age for the sake of it being so prevalent on social media, like you have to understand what you're getting yourself into. And I think a lot of us as black people are just scared to still tell our children that there are a group of people out here that are your enemies.
Join us every Monday at 12 noon for Black by Demand radio show, only on BeExposedRadio.com.
Whatever happened to the times when we cared for one another? We shared the same respect. What is happening? We're trading what's important for shiny things. I can't allow this blasphemy. It's blasphemy. Why would you treat yourself like that? We didn't come this far just to fall right back. I'm from. Don't lose yourself, stay on track. Baby, you're a god. You're a god. Baby, you're a god. Believe that. Full of the things that we've overcome.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Welcome back to the Artist Exchange Radio Show, here live only on BeExposedRadio.com. I'm your host, Nate. So I'm going to start by telling you my journey to this point, and me feeling as though, well, not feeling as though, and me discovering the importance of self-care. So I'll preface this by saying my deciding to heal myself and fix the things that I felt were wrong in my life has nothing to do with anybody. There were situations and experiences that I went through and just things that happened that involved other people. And I've never been a person to blame anybody or to focus my attention on who did this to me and pointing fingers. I just got really good at sucking things up and letting things just live inside of me. And that can make you septic. It really can. Like a mental, spiritual, septic illness. And that's the filling of your body with toxins that could ultimately kill you. And right now, I'm in a space where people in my life are taking my journey to healing and growth personal. Those people have been turned off in my life. And I'm saying this not to be petty or mean or disrespectful to the friends and family who feel this, because there's multiple people who have cussed me out, who feel some kind of way, who don't like me, who have blocked me on social media, and just a number of things, because I took my life into my own hands and I made some decisions for me and not for other people. So I'll say for me, I learned to just suck things up. In my family, I was the oldest boy and often the only boy and sometimes the youngest. And I've learned how, in a family full of women, I had a lot of men in my family, but mostly women. So I had to learn how to not always express myself, because this person might feel this way or this person might feel this way. And my friendships, I started doing the same thing. I carried it over, and just being a giver can sometimes take away from the things that you need in your life if you're not paying attention. And just over time, these things just caused my life a lot of friction and chaos that was unnecessary. And it's not any drama. I'm not a drama-filled person, but I allowed myself to be taken advantage of by people, and I allowed myself to allow people to take advantage of me. And it ain't about them. It's about those three fingers pointing back. These right here. 1, 2, 3. Those three fingers pointing back at you every time you point your finger and blame or judgment of someone else. What was your part in that? And I'm taking my part in this now. And if you want to speak your truth in the comment section, please do so. Be honest, be upfront, and you can share your story however you choose to. You can come on here and share it if you want to. This month is dedicated to self-help and self-care. So in my journey growing up as this person that I am today, I let a lot of stuff brush off of me, and it's not going anywhere. When we brush stuff off, it ain't going nowhere. We've just moved it over, but it ain't really detached itself from us. And for me, I kept doing this. I kept living this way. And over the last, I'll say 10 years of my life, I've started feeling the reaction of doing that. I started doing it more, but I started really feeling the reaction and the consequences of always putting myself last, and being a giver and being a supporter and always being there or being a bigger person in situations. I finally had to choose me. And it really came to a head about a year ago. I'll say a year and a half ago. And I just realized the value that I had in certain people's lives. it shocked me that this was the not rank, but the priority I had in certain people's lives in terms of how they respected me. And I realized why I was going through some of the health issues that I had, why I was going through some of the turmoil I was going through, why I was being angry and frustrated and I was going off at people. And I'm always a person that's vocal, but it was certain people in my life that I wasn't very vocal with. I would just let things happen. And I got tired of doing that. So I just turned off a lot of my relationships. It wasn't about cutting anybody off, but it was just turning off a lot of things that didn't mean me any good. And that may hurt somebody's feelings, but I gotta speak my truth, because as long as I'm lying for us, I'm the one suffering and you're being covered for. So I got to make sure I'm good. And it wasn't just family or friends. These were business relationships. I was allowing people into my space, people to sit down at this table and sit beside me and drain my energy, drain my resources, drain my talents, drain my pockets. And I wasn't doing anything about it because I wanted to always be a blessing to someone. But being a blessing to someone should not take away from the quality of your own personal life. Being a blessing to someone should only add to your life. But being reckless with the blessings that you have been given to give to others, in your form of your talent, your work, your gifts, your energy, your passion, all those blessings that have been given to you to give to somebody else should not drain you or hurt you. Love does not hurt. We find that out in many domestic violence situations. Love should not hurt you. It should not hurt me to give you this. It should not hurt me to do these things. But when they begin to hurt you, you got to stop, analyze, be aware, look around, see who's at fault. And often it's not about who's at fault, but realize what you're doing to yourself and what you're allowing to be done. So how do we get to self-care? For me, I started following certain therapists like Iyanla, or reading certain books like from Iyanla, or following certain people. I started following a lot of interviews that, say, Maya Angelou had given, or this person. I'm not a big Oprah follower, but I just started following message-driven content, whether it be on TV, whether it be on social media, YouTube, wherever. I was just seeking out these self-help gurus and people who were giving these positive affirmations to kind of help me be floating. So in me doing that, I started discovering what my issue was. And it is not, again, anybody that's listening that's taking this personal, you are grandma's child. Yes, you are the baby boy. She loves you so much. And part of that, and that's a lot of my issue. I just fell into a position in my life and I just played that role. And one of the things that once I started researching a lot of these self-help things, whether it be content or people or whatever, I just dug a little bit deeper and I just started finding ways to just keep myself happy. One of the things that I learned was I had to choose happiness. Happiness isn't just something that happens. It's a decision that you have to constantly make. If your lights are out, if your bills are due, if Sally Mae calling you every 5 minutes, if you are single and you've been dumped or cheated, no matter what's happening in your life, you have to choose happiness. Because when you start falling into that rabbit hole of depression, you choosing to be depressed, you choosing to be upset will physically harm you. Depression can kill you because it's not just something physically somebody's doing to you. It's something that you mentally are tearing yourself down. And it's not imagination. Your thoughts, your feelings can manifest themselves into your life, into something physical, good or bad. But when we're in that depressive state, it always goes to the black side, the dark side, the negative side. So some of the signs of burnout and compassion fatigue. Physical signs are physical exhaustion, feeling depleted or empty, insomnia, difficulty sleeping, hypersomnia, oversleeping, like going to the exact extreme of not being able to sleep, headaches or migraines. And I have a lot of people in my family that suffer from migraines and headaches. Increase susceptibility to illnesses. So your feelings of whatever, like I just said, will open you up and weaken your immune system, which leaves you vulnerable to colds that can lead to pneumonia or flu or other ailments. When your immune system isn't 100%, that leaves your body open to everything. Anybody with a terminal illness knows when you are sick with something, your immune system becomes compromised, which opens the door for everything. Stress-induced stomach aches, chest pains, heart palpitations, shortness of breath, chronic muscle tension. These things all happened to me at some point. I remember being a teenager, working at Popeyes. I was rushed to the hospital because I kept having these pains at work. I remember one day I could not stand up straight. I had these hard chest pains, and people kept saying, maybe gas, or just drink a ginger ale and try to burp. And it wasn't hurting. It was every breath I could feel it. So I went to the hospital, and it was called chest wall pains. And the doctor said, if you don't de-stress yourself, this chest wall pain can lead to a heart attack. And you're telling this to a 16, 17-year-old that they could possibly have a heart attack. And it wasn't my size. It wasn't what I was eating. It was the amount of stress. And anybody know fast food, if you ever worked, will have a certain level of stress if you're not used to it. And I jumped right into my very first real full-time job was at a fast food place, and I loved working, and I put myself in it, and I was overworking. And then I remember having to call my mother and said, I think I'm having a heart attack. And I didn't know what was wrong with me, and I just knew it wasn't what I thought was something that at 16 I should be going through. So I'll say it again. Some physical signs of burnout. You are physically exhausted, meaning no matter how much sleep you get, no matter how well you're eating, no matter how much you're exercising, your body just can't get into that next gear. And you're feeling a little like just exhausted, feeling depleted or empty. Just nothing you do makes you satisfied. No matter if it is, I've had moments where, and friends, I've seen friends go through this. No matter, you can get a raise at work, or you got a new car, or you got a new baby, or something happens and great happens in your life, and you just not feeling like good about it. And you just can't be happy. And it's like, it just won't happen for you. And it's ultimately is a choice, but we don't always realize the choice that we have to make. The next one was insomnia and hypersomnia, meaning difficulty sleeping with insomnia, and hypersomnia meaning you just can't go to sleep. And we see that I see a lot of people, and I went through this myself. I caught myself team no sleep, night owl, and you just would be up all night. And I thought it was my creative energy just flowing, because I would want to do something to get myself to sleep. So I would be making jewelry, I would meditate, I would watch movies, I would go for walks, I would call people. Like it was just, I could not fall asleep. I've never been a person that slept too much, because I just can't sleep like that. But I went to a point where I really was not sleeping, and I would have to be up at 6 or 7 o'clock, and I'm just being able to fall asleep at 4:30, 3:30, and you're not getting enough sleep. Headaches and migraines. I thought it was my glasses wasn't the right prescription, so I kept going to the eye doctor trying to get my eyes checked, thinking that I was having these headaches due to like my glasses being the wrong prescription. And I kept being saying, no, your eyesight is where it is, your glasses are fine. And I could not understand. And I started being dehydrated a lot more. So no matter how much water I was taking in, I just kept being dehydrated. And that's one of the things that's not on this list as well. And the last ones are stress-induced stomach aches. That's like ulcers, chest pains, heart palpitations, and you'll feel it because it just feel like a little flutter, and your heart rate it just feel different. It ain't beating the right way or the way it normally does. Shortness of breath, chronic muscle tension. And so something that I'm going through right now, me going through this fast, it did not seem to be working. So I had to go back to the doctors because it was just, and he asked me, what stress am I under? And I'm with these younger babies. So I had to really go back into what I knew to do and really try to distress myself, because we can do more harm to ourselves physically than any illness could do to us. And the shortness of breath, that's why people with asthma or bronchitis, your stress levels can sometimes flare up before dust mites and allergens and stuff like that can. Some behavioral signs, signs of burnout or compassion fatigue, increased use of alcohol or drugs. I've seen this happen with a lot of friends who use alcohol, specifically alcohol and drugs. I had a lot of addicts in my family growing up, but you find them using more, and even when nothing seems to be wrong, they're drinking more, or they're using drugs more, or they'll go into a part where they're clean or sober, and then all of a sudden you see them doing it again. But we think when we feel better, then, oh, I'm good. And not realizing we may not have done anything about that problem. We just hit a valley moment where it went into a valley and we back up on a hill again. And we thinking, oh, I'm good, without fixing the issues. Compulsive overeating, shopping, or just any compulsive like gambling or any addiction that it feel like you gotta do it. And we most see it in overeating and people with shopping addictions. And again, all these things, if you're going through this list with me and you're realizing that habit happens to me. For me, the compulsive shopping part was okay, thanks. The compulsive shopping part was I would go to a thrift shop with $20 when I was in college, because college seems to be the most stressful point of my creative career. And I just would go to the thrift shop with $20 and I would just feel so much better just spending that $20, and often it was more. And it would just make me feel better temporarily until that problem came back up or until the money was gone. And then when I didn't have any more money to spend, it was that feeling came back. So we're going to go back to a commercial break, and we'll be right back here on the Artist Exchange Radio Show, only on BeExposedRadio.com.
Like, the one thing you always gotta remember is people gonna try to project their insecurities onto you. But you can't listen to what them niggas saying. You gotta get out here and do your shit regardless. You gonna do what you love for the rest of your life anyway. So why not turn that shit into something? Be a man of everything you say. This shit bigger than me, man. Like, yeah, I'm good and all that, but you know what I mean? I ain't shit without y'all. What you up against, go hard, don't let it. Can you imagine how I really having nothing is? Stomach growling, you ain't got no food in the fridge. Surviving on a jail diet of water and bread. No father figure, that's cause my father dead. Mom's bringing different niggas in and out the crib. No money, so you seen it's less than all your friends. But it a joke because your mother was a crackhead. Older sister hoeing off, giving all her homies head. I could wait for your response, but they let her hear me talk, so I'll just wait for the applause. I always knew that I was great, I got them haters so appalled. I'ma make it out the darkness, and my word is my bond. Delivering these bars while I'm gripping on my balls. Jealous niggas hate to see you succeed, so fuck them all. I'm the master of my destiny, nigga, you not in charge. You either on your grind or in the way, so get lost. Be a man of everything you say you stand for. Lead your people by example, being hands-on. If you're back against the wall, then get your mash on. Fix your vision on the future like it's fast forward. The world is yours in due time, ain't gotta ask for it. I'm from the school of hard knocks, I took a crash course.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Welcome back to the Artist Exchange Radio Show here live only on BeExposedRadio.com. I am your host, Nate, and you're here watching us on this Monday, frigidly cold Monday. Was it the 4th of November? And time just seemed to be flying. Today we're talking about self-care as it pertains to just the warning signs and how we can combat some of that feelings. First of all, if you want to be a guest on this show or any show on the Be Exposed Radio Network, you can hit me up at the Artist Exchange Radio Show at gmail.com, and we'll send you out some dates and we'll get you hooked up and you can come on and tell your story. Also, if you want to promote your business or your brand via interview, or you want to actually advertise on our station, hit me up at the Artist Exchange Radio Show at gmail.com, or you can go to our website at www.beexposedradio.com and you'll see the advertising sponsorship bracket, and you can fill out the questionnaire and we'll get back to you at our earliest convenience. So today, again, we're talking about some warning signs of burnout, fatigue, as it pertains to self-care or the lack thereof. And we were just going through some physical signs and some behavioral signs. And I'll go back through the physical signs. Physical was physical exhaustion, feeling depleted or empty, insomnia or hypersomnia, headaches or migraines, increased susceptibility to illnesses. That's weakening of your immune system by way of your mental. Your depression often can do that, or just feelings of just that emptiness that we spoke about. Stress-induced stomach aches, ulcers, acid all those things that we think are caused by what we eat or what we're drinking, but it's really environmental and our feelings and emotion driving us to that point. Heart palpitations, shortness of breath, chronic and muscle tensions, and we moved over to some behavioral signs of burnout and compassion fatigue, and that was increased use of alcohol and drugs, those crutches that we use to get through sad times. And I remember I used to drink, and I remember when I stopped hanging out with certain people, I didn't feel the need to drink anymore. I can honestly say I've never bought alcohol from a store. I've only drank sociably, and I just would overdrink, and I was around the same type of people, and I'd be like, once I wasn't around them, I didn't feel the need to drink until I was around them. Not blaming them. I'm just saying I did not need to be around certain people, certain things, and I was forcing myself to be around, and the only way I was learning how to deal with it was taking a drink. Thankfully, I didn't do any drugs, because once I stopped really hanging out with those people, I didn't really feel the need to drink anymore, thankfully. And I'm not a drinker to this day. The next one was compulsive overeating and compulsive shopping. I was sharing some of my stories of where are you located? I requested it. I felt I I felt that going to the thrift shop and spending $20 was a way of like feeling better and buying stuff. And I quickly, as a starving student and artist, realized I couldn't do that because I was spending more money than I was bringing in. And then when I started having my own business, I was using my business funds to support what I was doing. Again, I'm gonna take a quick commercial break. We gotta pay some bills. We'll be right back here for the second hour of the Artist Exchange Radio Show, only on BigExposedRadio.com. Don't go anywhere.
Listen to this flashback of Skyline Radio Show.
So where we at? Where we talk about the effects and what's going on in these schools?
Yeah.
And what people don't understand. Just real briefly, I just want to talk a little bit about what people say bullying is or is not. So bullying comes in many forms. It's a teasing, it's the cyberbullying, it's the texting, it's the phone calls, it's the posting of pictures and people's personal information to pretty much cause them harm, to have them feel insecure. It's the sex assaults that people actually put out there. There are physical assaults, and there are mental assaults and emotional assaults. And what I like to remind individuals that any aggressive behavior towards anyone that is unwanted and unwarranted, and an individual asks you to stop. Let's stop there. Stop.
And they should be respecting that.
Respecting that and respecting yourself, because when you're able to respect another person, you're able to respect yourself. And the way that you're able to show that respect is that you know that you have a gift and you know you're uniquely made and that you matter, and then you also acknowledge that the next person beside you matters as well.
Right.
You know, and we lose that sometimes. Bullying is a behavior that underestimates the lives and legacy of you. I'm sure that when they was bullying me, and I'm sure when they was bullying you, they didn't understand who you're going to become later on. I didn't know.
Right, because I'm popping. I can't. All right, let me tell you, all those people who felt like they wanted to say whatever to me, look at me now. It's like, no, y'all don't understand, but I've been through some things, okay?
And you know what? No. I applaud you and I salute you, because a lot of times we do not take the time to say, I'm okay, and I'm okay with me, and there's nothing wrong with me, and I'm amazing, and I'm blessed, and I'm strong, and I matter.
Join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. for Skyline Radio Show, only on BeExposedRadio.com.
First they love you, then desert you. Leave with a plate full with no spoon. Ain't no space, I can't escape negativity. I got used to the taste. I've been bad, burned, then fucked over. But remain strong through the Passover. Kicking haters out of the way like mast over. Roll up, sip something, let it pass over. Who would I be? It ain't the man to me to let the next man take advantage of me. When that storm come, no pan I see. Get with it, not without it, then you'll see. I peep the haters, they know I'm greater. That's why they buzzing for the elevator. But I can't save you, the weed too loud on the pedal stool. Don't carry fakers, always got your hand out demanding favors. When I just looked out, now you need more paper. I can't breathe, give me 3 feet. I never let y'all be the death of me. When my patients run that, yeah, nigga OT, cause they wanna see me down like I'm NCT. 6 words, get the fuck away from me. Say I help you out if you can help yourself. I keep it G till I DIE. Now excuse me while I get back to PC. HOP ain't used to sleep while your third eye always on me. I'm stacking green just to feed the team. My boo, she know that I'm king with chasing my dream. These niggas it seems I rip them, trash them, then put on new jeans. Man, see the problem is, man, you know, I keep it 100, man. Yeah, man, like if I got it, then you got it. Yeah, man, but if I don't got it, then I'ma give it. You feel me? But I definitely got you through the ride, man. Let's get it, yo.
I'm really getting tired of ungrateful ass niggas. They really about to turn me to a hateful ass nigga. Like I was never there when you never had figures. Pull triggers for you niggas when you caught up in the trenches. Man, I really don't get it. I don't know what's going on, but I really don't feel it. Niggas really know that I've been there from the beginning, but the more I see niggas side switching, make me wanna bring it closer to the end, and that's why I can't fuck around with these niggas. I'll fuck around with my hoes, cause niggas acting like bitches and hoes acting like bros. Man, I swear I really don't get it. How people switch up they roles. First it was nothing but love, but nowadays I don't know. It seems like anything goes. Where can I go? Cause lately fucking with you, I just stand at a fork in the road, and it's hurting my soul. When I'm around you, I shouldn't feel like I should stay on my toes. So where do we go from here? Get dough from here, or are we gonna end it on the road right here? Cause either way, whether it's left or the right on my property, niggas gon' blow round here. Fuck cities up while we do shows round here. Keep our music bumpin' while we blow Joe round here. Don't be looking salty if you're not going nowhere.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Welcome back to the Artist Exchange Radio Show here live only on BeExposedRadio.com. I'm your host, Nate Couser. I am here. We're talking about self-care and, more importantly, some signs of burnout. Because often why we need self-care is because of what we're going through, but we don't realize self-care should come first. We shouldn't wait until something's wrong or we're feeling some kind of way. And for me personally, I've always made the attempt to take care of myself. So what I thought taking care of myself was making sure I was on my own and productive and being able to put food on my table, so on and so forth. I didn't realize how health, mental health, spiritual health, financial, I didn't really know that all those things were part of the daily self-care that we have to give from the time we wake up to the time we go to sleep, and everything that we do in between helps when we are asleep, and it carries over and then we wake up, and this is a part of our routine, it's a part of our eating habits, our diet, our how we relate, how we communicate. And we have to, if you're in a space where you feel like you need to regroup, you need to refocus, things may not be going right in your life, you have to take that time. And if people don't understand that, that's really their problem. It's not your problem. It's not for you to understand what they feel. And for me, turning certain people off was about me. It had nothing to do with you. It had everything to do with me. And people who were taking it personal were number one on the turn off list, because I could not see past what I needed, because I was dealing with how somebody was feeling about what I was doing to them, because I was doing something for myself. You know, if you can't see that level of selfishness, stay out of people's lives. Like, we're in a space where time is getting really hard, and we have a lot of people working towards just making people's lives harder. For us to have to deal with that in our personal circles and relationships, and I'm not for it anymore. Anybody who does not see how my health is priority, I don't need you in my life. And it's just that simple. It's nothing personal. It's nothing against you. I ain't angry. I ain't mad, but I'm all for myself. And sometimes, and my pastor, Pastor Ruth Travis, said this to me: you're in a selfish season. And sometimes we have to take those seasons and those moments to be selfish. Because if my cup is not full and running over, I have nothing to give you. I'm running off of fumes. What can I possibly give you? And there are a lot of selfish people out there that are okay with you running off of fumes, as long as you're not making them feel uncomfortable about themselves in their life as it pertains to what you're doing in your life. And you just got to get certain people out. So we were talking about some behavioral signs. We went over the increased use of alcohol, some compulsive overeating, compulsive shopping. And part of that, the compulsive eating part, was I don't eat enough really to sustain my size. And I don't eat breakfast a lot. I'll eat a late dinner. I may eat something for lunch, but when I did eat, it wasn't something good for me. It was going to be something that was going to hold on. My body was going to hold on to, which wasn't good. And then I wasn't exercising. So I was really holding on to a lot of these weights, because some of the physical signs of just being exhausted counteracted or caused some of the behavioral signs to be worse. So if I'm really not eating that well, me not exercising, or me being too exhausted to exercise, was causing weight gain and all those things. Going down to anger and irritability. Now, this is something that I felt was a part of my DNA. You know, everybody in my family got an attitude problem, and I didn't attach that until I became grown to people's inability to really get help in their lives. You're irritable because something's bothering you, and you stay irritable because you don't ever figure out what it is that's bothering you, or you don't take care of whatever it is that's bothering you. So I got tired of being angry. I got tired of being irritable. I got tired of being frustrated with people and things in my relationships. And you got to do something about those things. Absenteeism. Not having time for anything. Always saying I'm too busy, or I don't have time, or I gotta do this. Not feeling as though you have to live up to the responsibilities in your life. So and we're using, so today I did a professional development for my school, and we talked a lot about making sure our self-care was okay, because if our self-care goes down, then I can't be an effective teacher, I can't be an effective friend or employee, so on and so forth. And absenteeism was my biggest thing. I could ghost better than anybody I knew. And taking myself out of things became my way of dealing with what I was going through. And most times I didn't always fix what I was going through, and it often showed up in my life, and I did not realize me taking myself out of equations made the problem worse. And a lot of these things came up in my life. I remember being young, really young, and I want to say I was in middle school, and up until this point I was like a career student. So I was going to school full time, meaning year round. Middle school, literally, it was mandatory for us to go to school year round. And it got to a point where I was a teenager and I was going through teenage stuff. And on top of that, I was feeling some kind of way about things, and I didn't want to leave out the house. Again, those things started when I was young, and they started manifesting themselves worse when I became an adult. And I went through a period where, like, my mother couldn't get me out of the house. If it wasn't school or like an emergency, I didn't go. I was missing birthdays, I was missing hanging out with my friends, I was missing a lot of things because I didn't want to go out. And again, it was a small thing, like I was just tired. I could use the excuse of me being tired, but it was that absenteeism. And as I grew older, I started using that more often. So I would put more energy into working than I did in building a successful relationship with my partner or my friends or my family. And I got close to it. I got used to doing that, rather, and just not being around. Well, I gotta work, I got a show to do, I got rehearsal, and not really making time for me and building my self-care platform. So we went over absenteeism. Aggravated sense of responsibility. Exaggerated sense of responsibility. And you put yourself in these situations where you feel like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders, and it's self-inflicted, and it's your relationship. So I have a responsibility to make sure everybody in my family is getting along with each other. Meanwhile, you are creating enemies of your family and your friends and your co-workers because you're trying to make sure everybody else getting along, and you're not realizing you're not strengthening your relationships with these people personally, and you're actually agitating them and getting on their nerves. So now you're causing conflict. And a lot of these things we do to deflect off of ourselves. Avoidance of clients. Being an entrepreneur, one of the worst things you can do is self-sabotage your business. And part of the self-sabotage is not wanting to be around people. And often, I don't care, unless you have a business where you can run it via text message or email, and most times you're gonna have to come in contact with somebody, and that feeling of like I want to just stay in the house, I just want to do my business. Like I did that for my jewelry business. I just would stay in the house and I would make jewelry, and I never would go outside to sell it. So I began to sell it online, and that became to be a problem because I started selling it, but I didn't want to go out to actually mail it. And then I started being late on people's orders, and people who would be constant, and I could think about 5 or 6 people right now where I damaged a relationship with them because I did not send their package off in time. And then I began to lie about it. And then the guilt started eating me up, so I would apologize and try to do more. And then that person just got tired saying, I'm doing you a favor. Like, I'm supporting your business and you can't even send my stuff off. And just all these things, these behavioral things are signs of burnout. And burnout, depression, whatever you want to call it. And for me, I'll say this before I start using the big D word, depression. Depression is really is serious, but it's normal. And I don't want this conversation to go to a place where we feel like depression is a bad thing, it's abnormal. Depression untreated is a bad thing. Depression itself is our body's natural cleansing. Anything you have that's you holding on to that becomes a part of your mental or your subconscious, depression is just like, it's just cleaning it out. What happens with depression, and your doctors will say this whenever you're here, if it lasts more than a week, then come back. But normally, like it really is your body's way of cleaning it out. So I don't want to think burnout is natural. Depression is natural. Feeling sad is natural. It's when it's prolonged over a period of time. And it's normally a couple days to a week. Anything over that, you have to go seek help. Because sometimes it's just, the change of seasons, you're doing too much, and sometimes you got to sit down and rest. And that's all it takes. Or just getting certain people out your life. That's all it takes. But when it's extended period of times, over a week, a month, it started getting to a month. You've been sad and depressed for a couple months now, a year, 2, and this happens to people. And people become functionally depressed. The next one is impaired ability to make decisions. It happens when, say, that brother that can't seem to keep a job, or that friend that can't seem to keep a job, and they're just laying around the house. They may get evicted and they stand with you and they just laying on the couch all the time, and you just like, get your life together, dude. Like, their ability to get up and take care of their business is being affected by something, and they got to tap into that thing that's keeping them, making them hit that roadblock, that wall. The next one is forgetfulness. When you try to fill your mind up with everything other than what you need to take care of, it gets a little hazy. And one of the things that I do now is I make a lot of lists, because sometimes you're in the middle of just everything that you're doing and you just need to make a list of things I got to do. And often when you get to that place of, okay, I'm too busy, you can just start checking off. It makes it a lot easier. I love making lists. I love sticky notes, because it just keeps you in order sometimes when you can't mentally do it without. So sometimes you need that paper and pen just to write things down to get yourself in order. But this is a good sign that something's wrong. When you're forgetting a lot, something's wrong. You could be sick, or you could be depressed, or something's going on. You got too much on your plate. You need to get some stuff off. You need to organize and reevaluate some things. Another behavioral sign is problems in personal relationships. I have a lot of creative friends, and over the course of the last couple years, I started losing friendships in the same way. And it always was one of my female friends, and they were doing something like of significance in their life, and I would come help them, or I would try to be helping them just in general, and they would feel that I wasn't being 100% involved or supportive, and that would cause them to like get mad at me, and then there'd be an argument, and then there's an explosion, and then all of a sudden we're not friends no more. And after the first couple times, I was like, something weird here, because I didn't do nothing wrong, or that I thought I didn't do anything wrong. And I can't always say I didn't do anything wrong, but in my eyes, I didn't do anything wrong. You know, I was being a friend. I couldn't always be there 100%. And maybe I could have fixed things, but sometimes things can't always go people's way. And I just kept finding myself losing my friendships the same way. And it often happened to the women in my life, because guys are like, if you ain't gonna help me, they just normally black or white about it. Women get on this roller coaster with it, and it becomes a personal attack when you can't be there for somebody, or it's hurtful, because that means they don't really know you, or they really haven't invested in your life that much. But it becomes a thing of there's all these conflicts that keep happening, and we have to learn how to communicate, because if we learn how to communicate effectively, a lot of the misunderstandings won't necessarily happen. So we're gonna take a quick commercial break, and we're gonna finish the list for some behavioral signs of burnout, compassion fatigue, and depression. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on the Artist Exchange Radio Show, only on BigExposedRadio.com.
Supposed to have my money today.
Man, it is what it is.
Then last week you told me your wife was cooking.
Man, it is what it is.
Then again, I don't think I want your wife cooking because you don't like it.
Well, it is what it is.
This Fly T Miles, also known as Tyree Miles, and Mr. Miles the writer.
Hip Hop K. Check us out every Friday on Be Exposed Radio. It is what it is, 9/11.
Are they ready to? I know they're not ready to accept it, but yeah, exactly. That's my whole thing. Like, how many of them are really ready to think about it like that?
None.
You know, like
I think the problem is
like
I don't even know how we got here, but it's inbred.
Mm-hmm.
You're not born to hate people. You're not born to distinguish between black and white and Asian and Hispanic. That's something that you're taught. You're taught. Point blank, period.
Straight up.
My daughter came home and told me that her white teacher was black. Maybe it's because it's how she treated her. She don't see any color. But when it comes to all her friends, all her friends are mixed. All of her friends have a white parent, black, African, Hispanic, other parent.
So
children don't see color. You breed your children. Not breed.
Right.
You raise your children to see that.
Yeah, most definitely.
They don't see racism.
Well, I guess
I met a little girl who had a black doll, and she said because the black dolls are prettier than the white dolls. But then I've taken a black doll and a white doll and put it in front of two kids, and it's a study that they've done before. You put it in front of two kids, and you put it.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Welcome back. So we're gonna finish out our behavioral signs and go to some psychological signs. And if you're just tuning in, we're talking about self-care. Today's topic is self-care, and we're gonna be using it as our topic for the month of November. And today specifically, we're talking about some signs of burnout, depression, compassion fatigue, whatever perspective you're coming from with, and just a kind of a recap of going over physical signs: physical exhaustion, feeling depleted or empty, insomnia, that's a difficulty in sleeping, or hypersomnia, oversleeping, increased susceptibility to illness, stress, induced stomach aches, chest pains, heart palpitations, shortness of breath, chronic muscle tension. And those were physical signs. Some behavioral signs are increased use of alcohol or drugs, or a crutch to kind of deflect or block you, or numb you rather, and having to think about what you're going through. Compulsive overeating or compulsive shopping, just kind of numbing yourself and kind of separating yourself, or creating that wall between you and what your problems are, and nothing changes. Anger and irritability, absenteeism, aggravated sense of responsibility, avoidance of clients or just people in general, impaired ability to make decisions, forgetfulness, problems in personal relationships, not being able to effectively communicate, or and that lack of communication when you're going through something will make people think that they've done something wrong to you, or they get an attitude, or they get upset when they feel like what you are saying or doing or whatever. And I'm going through this right now. There are people in my life who feel some kind of way that I'm not talking to people, and I don't feel like doing it. Like, I had to continue on my life. I had to get some things in order, but in the process, I had to eliminate some of the relationships that I'm having that were causing just some frustration in my life. The next one is compromised care for clients, or just compromised care for others, like being careless in what you're doing in your work. And it's specifically talking to entrepreneurs or artists, not having your best foot forward, and basically when you're working, or in your personal relationships, forgetting somebody's birthday, or you were invited to a party and you didn't come, or not calling people, or not following up, and just not being 100% professional in your business life, and not being as loving and thoughtful in your personal relationships. The next one is job hopping, just that feeling of just not being satisfied. And the job hopping happens when, something wrong with them people. And then you go to the next job and it's the same thing. And this happens in our personal relationships. This friend, they tripping. And then you had the same problem. They tripping. And you're not realizing the common denominator in all these things is you. And it's not necessarily you've done something wrong. You're not cleaning something up, and you're not taking the time to really adjust and figure out what's wrong in your life. So job hopping, friend hopping, situation hopping, and thinking that you're basically running away from things and running right into the same problem, because the problem is with you. And when I say problem, and I shouldn't use the word problem, but what you're going through is following you. It's not necessarily those people. Now, their reaction to what you're going through can also make the problem worse, because we live in a community now, and families and friends, and a society now where people are really selfish. They'll see you self-destructing and make it personal and make it about them, opposed to reaching out or making you aware or telling you the truth or communicating with you. They'll make what you're going through about them. So if you're a drug addict, they know you've been molested, they know you've been raped, they know you've had a tough time, they know these traumatic things have happened in your life, and you're now using drugs or alcohol or prostitution or XYZ to kind of numb the pain. But you being a drug addict has caused some things to go wrong, whether they've had to bail you out a couple times or you've stolen something from them. So they see what the reaction, or they see what the crutch is, or they see what the result of your trauma is, and they're more focused on, you are a drug addict, this is embarrassing, this is a problem, what is wrong with you, versus not having any of that energy into knowing that you've been molested, that you've done this. I always and I don't want to speak about this person, but I have a family member who went through some traumatic things as a child, and their behavior as an adult is atrocious. They're really volatile, they're really combative, they're really disrespectful to family and friends, and relationships don't last in their life. We know, or we found out, and we know what the root of that is. Nobody is focusing on that. People only have focused on this. So this thing over here that becomes that began to be a problem is what we then focused on. So that is the problem, and that's how we take things personal in other people's lives versus trying to get that person help and healing the trauma, because then this won't be a problem anymore if we try to help them. But people not that compassionate anymore. I don't remember a time where we really were, so I can't even say anymore, but we're not. Luckily, we live in a world now where people aren't afraid to say what's wrong with them. But even then, people being able to say what's wrong, are you getting help? Or are you just getting high off of that story or that trauma or that experience? So job hopping, loss of appetite. And that goes, and it's crazy because compulsive overeating, compulsive shopping, things can go to any extreme. Any of these things that I'm naming, you can go to the opposite extreme of it and it still be a part of your problem. Not the problem, not the source, but a part of the problem. So the third category is physical signs. So we've gone psychological signs. So we've gone over some physical signs and some behavioral, the action signs of burnout, compassion fatigue, and depression. But some psychological signs, and the psychological signs often is a much bigger list than the physical signs. The physical signs make up a small portion, and then the behavioral ones is normally acting out, and it's a little bit bigger. But the biggest chunk in terms of signs is the psychological signs. Emotional exhaustion. Now, in the first one we said physical, emotional exhaustion, and that's a disconnect between people. I'm just really tired of the relationships that I'm having. I'm really tired. I'm drained. I don't feel like being in love. I don't feel like working on a friendship. I'm just exhausted over, and it may not even have anything to do with those relationships or that person. It has a lot to do with what I am personally feeling. Distancing from family, friends, and work associates, and just your work. And for me, that has been that has been my biggest, I would say, sign, is me distancing myself. And part of it was necessary. Thanks. Part of it was necessary, and part of it was a necessity. People don't realize how much they make your problems worse. And it's not an attack on them. It's not blaming them. But people are selfish. They're selfish, and they take your shit personally. But we're going to take our next break. We'll be back with this conversation, talking about some psychological signs of burnout, compassion fatigue, and depression as it pertains to self-care. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on the Artist Exchange Radio Show, only on BigExposedRadio.com.
This is a Poverty ENT exclusive. Next stop, Texaco, strapped up, you already know. Fuck niggas hate, that's how it goes. Bros with me, yeah, it's time to go.
Nigga, chose by another nigga, bitch, damn. This chopper got 50 round clip. So this Molly and the syrup got me geeking, shorty. Ain't know I popped them Xannies, had them sleeping on me. Love in a hood full of hate. Pray to God that he open up them gates. Rest in peace to Freddie Gray,
that's how it goes. Bros with me.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Welcome back to the Artist Exchange Radio Show. And if you're just tuning in, we're talking a lot about self-care. But for this first show for November, I wanted to dig a little bit deeper as it pertains to some of the signs that we aren't taking care of ourselves. Self-care is really important, and self-care isn't an afterthought. An afterthought is really supposed to be used as a preventative method and not aftercare. With some of the signs can range from some physical signs to some behavioral, and we're now on some psychological signs. We went through emotional exhaustion, distancing from family and friends, and that's where we stopped and where we pick up a lot. And I'm saying these things because some of them, when you say it, when like in the behavioral signs, increased use of alcohol and drugs, or if I say absenteeism or stress, induced stomach aches, they just seem like negative things. But some of these things are things that we use to help us cope. A lot of these things are coping mechanisms. We call them signs, but they're really ways that we cope with dealing with what we're going through. And distancing myself is a new thing for me, and it's something that I've used to just quiet the noise. Sometimes everybody got an opinion about something, or people want you to feel a certain kind of way, and for me it was just getting people out of my earshot. I got tired of hearing other people tell me what my problem, not necessarily what my problem was, but how I should be feeling. How I should be feeling, what I should be saying, what I should be thinking, as it pertains to something that they've contributed to. And most people don't want you to feel bad, but they want you to feel how they feeling, or they want you to forgive them, or they want you to hear their side or not blame them, and often you're not doing any of those things. You're just going through something, and they may be a part of the problem or part of the conflict or not. But sometimes you gotta separate yourself just so you can get some understanding. I'm not saying use that as a tool to just start cutting people off or reason to cut people off, but it's just a tool that we use. One of the other psychological signs is a negative self-image. You start picking yourself apart and finding things wrong, and often blaming yourself. And it ain't about pointing a finger, but just blaming yourself, putting yourself down, picking yourself apart, finding ways to damage your credibility with yourself. Reducing your ability to feel sympathy. I just did it wrong. Reducing ability to feel sympathy or empathy. So you stop caring. And I heard myself saying these things a lot, and it hurts. It hurts a lot because once you become aware of the things that you're thinking and how negative it is in your life, it really it does something to you. But one of the things we stop doing is having compassion for others when we're going through something, especially when those others don't have compassion for us and don't have the energy to support us and what we're going through. We stop caring, and that's the first thing. So losing sympathy and empathy are two things that will keep you in a dark space. The next one is cynicism and bitterness. Just that angry disposition that you have, always blaming other people, always angry at other people, never really seeing other people's side, and just always finding fault in others. And it could be justifiable, but if you stay in that bitter state, you'll never be able to make a choice to be happy or to grow or to move forward or to just be happy in your life. despite. Resentment, that's akin to cynicism and that bitterness. This resentment, this being angry at people for not being there, people for not caring, for people who aided in whatever was going wrong. You know, if you went through something traumatic, the people who did it are often on the list. The people who stood by and watched it happen. The people who did not know what to do. You begin to be real bitter and resentful towards those people. Dread of working with certain people. Working with people or just being around certain people makes you, it's really your trauma reacting to your environment, but it becomes about, I don't want to be around this person anymore. And if you're in a workplace environment, I am notorious for this. I will ghost you. You become invisible to me. And it's really your way of dealing with how somebody has treated you. It's not healthy. It's not helpful, but it is a means to getting yourself at a better place. And a lot of these people be like, this cut the nigga off, this fuck them, da, 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 da. It's not helpful. It's really not helpful. And it's something that me personally, I've gone through many of the things, not all, but many of the things that are on these lists. And I'm telling you, it's not helpful. Ghosting somebody, when you got a good heart, ghosting somebody will kill you. When you got a good heart and you are at the core, you're a really good person, and you being resentful and bitter hurts you. That person somewhere, and it may affect them. If they got a good heart, if they really cared about you truly, they somewhere suffering. So y'all both on the ends of the spectrum suffering. Or if you really dealing with some assholes, they don't give a fuck. That is comedy to them. That is fuel for them. So making your decisions for you to be good and for you to be at your best is really where you should be in life. The next one is feeling professionally helpless. And we went over that in some physical signs and some of the behavioral signs, but feeling like you can't do anything right. Feeling like you hit the ceiling. Going through a moment of like, why am I here? Like, not feeling the significance of what you're doing. Losing drive, losing passion, losing the energy to do things that you love to do. And as an artist, I've gone through that a lot. I've doubted myself. Actually, how I got to this station, I said I did this play, I directed that play, and that got me here. That was supposed to be the last thing that I did creatively. And my faith in God, God has a plan for everything. And me doing this and making the decision to do this opened me up to a whole nother field that gave me a break from my creativeness and how I was doing it. So it gave me a radio platform and allowed me to take a break from being an artist, but it kept me relevant because I was still interviewing many of the people that I work with. Many of the artists was coming on the show, and I could not lose my passion for being an actor or a director or a jewelry designer or event. I couldn't lose the passion because I was being surrounded by these people and interviewing these people twice a week. And then I was working with the other hosts on the station, and I began to be asked to do other things. So that thing that I thought was about to be the nail in the coffin actually was just another step in me getting closer to where I wanted to be. Diminished sense of enjoyment. You just, like I said, a lot of these things equal to just losing the passion and the drive for what you're doing. Going on autopilot. And it's something that I've sometimes as a teacher that happens to me. And you just get in that zone and you just I'ma just do this, and you're not giving the best, and you're not really fulfilling your job duty, and you're not being authentic. One of the principal that I work with now, one of her rules to our instructors is that we give authentic lessons and assignments, meaning we're not just giving busy work. We're not just popping in a video on a Friday because I ain't feeling it. But we give authentic work, and just that sense of depersonalization or autopilot is something that we all go on when we just not feeling it. And it's okay. It really is okay. When you get to a point where you gotta go on autopilot, I'm saying a lot of these things are okay because they're reactions to a real thing that has happened to us. Now, is the reaction good? No, but this is all a normal process. You just have to not do it. You just have to make a choice to not do it. And sometimes those choices are second to second, minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day, month to month, year to year. And you got to keep making that decision until it just becomes a part of your everyday. Heightened anxiety. I had one anxiety attack, and it's the scariest thing because you don't know what's going on with you, and most people think they're dehydrated when they're going through it. I remember being in a barbershop, and I was first time I ever went to this barbershop. Shout out to Angels Barbershop in Walbrook Junction. I believe they're still there. And I remember being in the barbershop, and the young lady who was cutting my hair, she had somebody before me, so I went and got something to eat, and I was sitting there eating my food, and finally it was my turn, and I thought that I had ate something bad because my belt felt really tight, and I was sweating, and there was a fan in my face, and I was profusely sweating. So the first thing I think, I've gotten food poisoning. So I asked her to stop what she's doing. She's literally halfway cutting my hair. It's like half of my head is being shaved, and the other half she's working on. And I go to the bathroom, and she give me the key, and I really cannot put the key in the door. Like, I'm in my mind, I see the lock, I have the key, put the key in the door, and I'm doing this like it's hitting the doorknob, is not going into the key. And I remember her coming out and her asking me, am I okay? And I felt really disoriented, a little dizzy, and I had never felt like that before. I get to the hospital and they told me that I had an anxiety attack. And I'm laying there on the bed, and they got me hooked up to an IV just to hydrate me. And just everything that I was doing, I had taken a moment out of a really stressful week to simply get a haircut. Because it had been a month since I gotten a haircut, and my hair was growing really long. And at the time, I tried to keep myself up a lot, and I could not get it together. And it felt like the doctor explained it to me, like everything, the moment you sit down, like everything that was going on just fell on me. And it felt like I could breathe normally. It was just, I could not get the key in the door. And that was the metaphor, but it physically could not open up the bathroom door. The next one is irritable fears, irrational fears. And sometimes it could be, we say it's a fear of success. And sometimes fearing going forward, or fearing the fear of doing something that you know you can do, stage fright if you're an actor, or of being afraid to go on that audition or that interview, or going into a meeting and you find every excuse possible to keep yourself from doing it. Your mind has developed fears, or you have developed fears in your mind that are starting to manifest themselves into real life situations that are unfounded. Because any other normal part of your life, you would go for it. But for some reason, whatever you're going through is creating this fear and anxiety in what you're doing and your abilities. And it's really, it's simple as a decision, but sometimes getting to that decision is like going through a maze sometimes. Let me check the time. Inability to tolerate strong feelings. Just not wanting to deal with things. Not wanting to make choices. Not wanting to be a part of your growth and making that decision. I'm not dealing with this. And it's so easy to do that in the midst of turmoil that it could be too easy. And we feel like that's easier, but that's actually, you're making a really hard decision because that's really gonna cost you down the line. The next one is problems with intimacy. And this is the self-sabotage, like you're going on a date with somebody and you find all these problems wrong with them. And I say this because people do that on a normal basis. It may not be nothing wrong, but when you're going through something, you find every reason in the world, and it's up to here to distance yourself from people, to start fights with people, because it's much easier to go through these things and not deal with really what the problem is. And I'm gonna go through a couple more before we go. Problems with intimacy, hypervigilancy. I know I'm saying that wrong. Hypervigilance, and that's just being hyper aware of everything, and that's anxiety at its worst because you see everything. Intrusive imagination. Intrusive imagery, just negative thoughts when you're thinking about a situation, and your mind may be going into a solution, but your intrusive thoughts are making things worse, and you're finding the negative in every situation. I'm gonna do one more. Hypersensitivity to emotional charged stimuli, uncontrolled crying. And this is one of the ones that is not typical for people, but it could just be a result of you just everything. And you could be having a good day that day, and everything is just filling you up. Everything is filling you up and is forcing it to come out. And often tears or violent behavior is often the outlet. So we have one more break, and we're gonna come back from that break after this quick commercial break. So don't go anywhere. The Artist Exchange Radio Show, only on BeExposedRadio.com.
Take a minute and listen to this flashback of the Artist Exchange Radio Show.
Any trouble, because I get into any trouble, but I had a problem that this then became a discussion at that workplace environment. Now, the discussion was I should have been more sensitive. In what way was my first response? And I guess when I had to meet with that said person who had the issue with the person who was said leader of that organization, I said, well, to that person, how would I have known that? Well, you should have asked.
I think so. You want my opinion?
It was a circle, and I was willing to go on that merry-go-round.
You are better than most.
Yeah.
I think that's normal when you're in a group and there's norming. Most of the time when you're in new work environments or you're in a space where you're getting to know people, it's normal now to ask for people's preferred pronouns. You wouldn't have known that.
Normal to who? What is normal?
You work in social. You work in social innovation and
my pronouns, so it's not normal to me.
You don't, but I think because I feel like the person was probably offended because they felt like you were not honoring whoever they are, right? But you wouldn't have known that.
Still to this moment, I don't know what their pronouns are. So in that
they didn't offer
circle, we still don't know. So I'll go as far as saying I perceived it to be a she.
Perceive them to be a she.
Them.
Yeah.
Her, him, they,
them. It seems like they, them would be the easiest one on this one.
Join us every Monday and Friday at 2 p.m. for the Artist Exchange Radio Show, only on BeExposedRadio.com.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Welcome back to the Artist Exchange Radio Show. So today we went through a number of signs of burnout and compassion fatigue. I'll be posting this up on our page this week. And we went through some physical signs, we went through some behavioral signs, and we went through some psychological signs. Just to finish out the list, we ended with hypersensitivity to emotionally charged stimuli, meaning uncontrolled crying, insensitivity to emotional material, and that's the feeling contrary to what you would normally feel to something, like that numbness that you're feeling, loss of hope, difficulty separating personal and professional lives, failure to nurture and develop non-work related aspects of your life. And these are some really significant things, and they were things that as I was doing my research, I just started filling in the blanks and not realizing how to separate them, because when you're going through all this stuff feels the same, and realizing physical signs, behavioral signs, psychological signs can come sometimes. They can blend, meaning they can overlap, but they can be totally different and make people feel totally different. And some of them are natural traits that some people have and didn't realize this is how I deal with issue. This is how I deal with problems. This is how I deal with, conflict in my life. And just realizing how you deal with stuff and being aware of how you deal with stuff can help you heal or forgive or get through or just get by a lot faster or forgive. I'm gonna go through 4 steps of wellness, and so I'm giving you all the signs of something being wrong or something going wrong. I'm gonna say it that way. 4 steps to wellness. So I'm giving you the signs that something's wrong. I'm gonna now give you some steps to kind of combat those things and move forward. 1, become aware. Know your stresses and your triggers. Know what your triggers are. Now, these aren't triggers. These are just the signs, the results of whatever's triggered you. So if you're if you're not good with stressful situations, that's a trigger. Stress is a trigger. But knowing that stress is a trigger, you have to keep yourself calm as best as you can so you can get through stressful situations. Number 1, enhance your level of self-care. So whatever you're doing, understand if it's working or not. Be mindful if it's working. So don't just keep doing something because it's a routine and it's called self-care. If it's not working for you, it's not working for you. For me, I have to take at least, for me, I'm not a person that can just jump up out of bed. I don't care how late I am. Jump up out of bed, get ready, because at some point in that get up and get ready, I'm going to slow down. I'm a slow down. So I have to take a couple minutes, and I may have to take time from other things, but I have to take at least 10 minutes and just get myself together and allow my mind to wake up. And it takes me about 10 minutes. On a good day, I have more time to do this, but most times I really feel like I gotta take that time, and I often have to take time from this or take from that, or just suck it up and say I'm gonna have to be late today. But I have to take that time, because for me, I'm walking into a classroom first thing in the morning, so I can't afford to come in there with an attitude or disgruntled. So I'd rather get admonished for being 10 minutes late than to go into a classroom and have CPS called on me. But And it can happen that way because people misconstrue people's feelings. So in terms of your self-care, enhancing it, finding things that work. And sometimes it takes trying this and that doesn't work, but try it for a couple days, try it for a week. And if it doesn't work, or if you know instantly, go to the next thing. Research some things that help you, get it together. Meal, if it's about eating breakfast, that means you gotta on Sundays do some meal prep. So one day a week, do some meal prep so you can just grab something and be eating on the go, which isn't always good, but you gotta, get as much sleep as you can get, but figuring out how you can get up at a reasonable amount of time so you can get to work in time. Number 3, develop resilience and social emotional skill sets. Learn how to repair yourself. Whether it's an ongoing therapist, whether it's exercise, whether it's diet, whether it's making lists or sticky notes or meditating or affirmations, make sure you're developing a strategy for dealing with people or dealing with people despite what may be going wrong with you, dealing with people despite what may be going on with you. And number 4, make a commitment to change. Today, this week, this month, this year. Make a strategy. Don't say this year I'm going to do it and then wait till the 31st of December. Make steps. So if it takes you to December the 31st to do that arc, to really complete that change, make the steps now. Do baby steps. Do a little bit here, a little bit here. If you want to do it today, is it really realistic for you to make all these changes today? And really think about that. So we're going to go Friday. We're going to talk about just figuring out you. So we talked about some of the warning signs, but we're going to go into some of the trauma that we've had to go through. So we have a special guest on Friday. So don't miss out. We'll be right back. I don't believe Talk Lately will be joining us tomorrow, but join us on Wednesday with, what's the name of the show? Living a Rich Life is the next show coming up on Wednesday at 5 p.m. So look for that. We'll be back on 5 p.m. this Friday. So have a nice night.
Long live Pop. Y'all can go ahead and cry now. I'm gonna show these niggas what to do with one of your beats, man. Gas, by the way.
Strong woman story should have been on CNN. Nobody knows what it's like being Gwen. Windows closed in the house, it ain't no CNN. Can't gain weight for years, she been being thin. Single mother, no help from the system. When they was giving out food stamps, she missed them. Birth certificate, baby daddy, she couldn't list them. But her son was so beautiful when she kissed him. Blame it on love, but nigga she could've died with. Destroyed the whole world and found out she was a side chick. The nigga loved his wife and it got hard to hide it. So when Gwen confronted him, he ain't even denied it. Her fault, depends on who you asking. She tried to be a stripper, but the tip out was taxing. Buying all the purses, trying to keep up with the fashion. And her mama hated baby sitting with a passion. She deserved better circumstances. A black queen, she should've been blessed with certain chances. Look down upon, getting all the hurting glances. Making men change up all the twerking stances. She never cried about the pain, only gritted her teeth. But most soldiers never get a flower or a wreath. She like G.I. Jane in the war with no relief. Don't recognize why killers was going through her beat. She said more prayers than the nun did. After seeing so much struggles with only one kid, the clinic said baby number 2 couldn't be undid. 9 months later, delivery and it's one big. But this time it was an older dude. But the shit happened so fast, she barely know the dude. Damn, but we all make mistakes though. And the older we get, that's how mistakes go. So he claimed the baby, now with no money. He said shit was hard and his dollars was kinda funny. Real was feeling like that was strike 2. So when it rains and pours, that's just how life do. She was thinking about her childhood and how life flew. Her daddy she always loved, but she never quite knew. This was before the bags and the cellulite glue. Other bitches in her shoe, no telling what they might do. You lose a lot of friends, they start to despite you. Passing judgment when they don't got the right to. And even though I love the gangsters, the same for the gangsters. I remember you no matter how big the fame gets. Paint a perfect picture, baby, you can frame this. As long as I'm slapping, you will never be nameless. While I was robbing, you did things that was shameless. Both products of our environment, we was blameless. They deserve better, those women who raised men, who went out of town with us in that day's end. The ones we leave on the streets when them days in. Got slammed right with us when the feds blaze in. Not only men is going through it on the wild turf, but the women too. Add that to the childbirth. Kids raising kids, not knowing what a child worth. How you walk in they shoes when every mile hurt. Turn down the nigga, now you can't get respect from him. Think you should fuck just cause you got a check from him. It's bad, ask him where is his pad. Them broke niggas always bitter and it's sad. So what they done to you, they done to me, they done to us. So when I speak of real niggas, just know you one of us. Yes.
Artist Exchange Radio Show every Friday 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. every Saturday 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Real artist, real talk, real live on BeExposedRadio.com.
I was meeting with a friend yesterday, and I've gotten to the point where don't ask me a question because the truth is going to come out. And
exactly.
Just don't do it.
If you ain't looking for the truth, don't come to me.
Don't do it because I can't hold my tongue. And she wants to be this stylist, boutique, but you're not doing anything in that nature, and I can't take you seriously if you're not doing those things. And I understood why people didn't take me seriously because I found myself in somebody else's lane. I was good at what I was doing and what I wanted to be, but I wasn't doing it for me. So how can I ask you to take me seriously if I'm living in somebody else's shoes?
And nobody can do what you do, and I think that that's a big problem that people face now. Like, you see what somebody else is doing and you want to do that when that's not your lane.
That's not your lane.
That's not what you're supposed to be doing.
But it's popular, it's getting that person money, it's getting that person applause. Oh, I want applause. I want money. Let me stand over here behind them.
And then a lot of times people aren't honest with themselves either. Like, I was thinking earlier today, I've been woke for almost 2 days, so so you get honesty, yes. And I was thinking, like, you know,
the Artist Exchange Radio Show.
Far into this unknown to find who we really are. Crash into something new and take a break from our broken heart. Talk with the hip, tell me you lie. I think we should go for another round.